Drinking alcohol has progressive effects. The more a person drinks, the more cues you are likely to see. Intoxication rate factors affect how quickly a person becomes intoxicated and displays behavioral cues. There are 6 intoxication rate factors. The first is a person's size. Larger people may be able to drink more without being as affected as smaller people. However, if the larger person's size is due mostly to body fat, the reverse can be true, since body fat does not absorb alcohol. The second intoxication rate factor is gender. Women are typically smaller, with a higher percentage of body fat, and tend to become intoxicated faster than men. The third factor is the rate of consumption. The faster a person drinks the alcohol, the more quickly he or she will become intoxicated. The fourth intoxication rate factor is the strength of the drink. A straight-up drink will be absorbed most quickly. A drink diluted with water will be absorbed slower. Remember, however, that any carbonated mixer may increase the absorption rate. It is also important to understand that each of these drinks has about the same amount of pure alcohol: 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, and 1 ounce of 100 proof liquor. But remember, we're talking about measured drinks here. The figures are not accurate if the drinks aren't measured. Glass sizes differ, and so does the amount of alcohol in various mixed drinks. Any kind of alcohol beverage can cause intoxication because they all contain pure alcohol. Don't fall prey to the myth that people drinking beer and wine are less likely to become intoxicated than those drinking hard liquor. The fifth factor is drug use. There is no way to predict how a drug will react with alcohol. Both prescription and non-prescription drugs, when taken with alcohol, can have an unpredictable effect. The last intoxication rate factor is food intake. Food in the stomach delays the absorption of alcohol into the bloodstream. A person with a full stomach will not become intoxicated as quickly as will a person drinking on an empty stomach. Alcohol differs from other food and beverages because your body does not have to digest it before absorbing it. It can be absorbed directly into the bloodstream. So, how do we measure someone's intoxication level? Behavioral cues are your best way to assess visible intoxication, which can be grounds for arrest regardless of the amount of alcohol actually consumed. Most laws rely on what is called blood alcohol content, or BAC, to determine intoxication. BAC is a measurement of the amount of alcohol in a person's blood. Every jurisdiction has a legal BAC limit, at or above which it is illegal to operate a motor vehicle. BAC levels can be accurately measured only by blood testing or by breathalyzer. As a server of alcohol, you're not expected to know a person's BAC level, but you will want to note some key points about blood alcohol content. The more alcohol a person consumes, the more behavioral cues you are likely to see, and the higher the BAC level will be. A person's BAC level can be different each time he or she drinks, even when the number of drinks is the same. Intoxication rate factors affect how quickly the BAC level rises. Time is the only thing that can lower a person's BAC level. By relying on behavioral cues, intoxication rate factors, and your understanding of BAC, you should be able to assess each guest you serve. Of course, tolerance can make assessing your guests a little harder. People who frequently drink alcohol tend to have a high tolerance, allowing them to hide the behavioral cues that might otherwise indicate that they are intoxicated. You will want to pay special attention whenever you notice a heavy smell of alcohol on a guest's breath. Tolerance has no effect on a person's BAC level or the level of intoxication. Just because a person isn't showing the typical cues does not mean the person is not impaired. At the other end of the spectrum, people who drink infrequently tend to have a low tolerance and may show signs of intoxication after consuming only a small amount of alcohol. So far, we have talked about the cues that indicate when a person has had too much to drink, and about the intoxication rate factors that affect how quickly a person becomes intoxicated. We've also touched on blood alcohol content, and the idea that tolerance can make it harder to accurately assess your guests' levels of intoxication. That knowledge is helpful, of course, but you also need to understand the legal responsibilities that go along with serving alcohol. And you will need guidelines for steps you can take when an incident does occur. We will explore these ideas in a moment, but for now, it's time for a discussion of the information we have covered so far. guidelines you will see in this part of the program are practical, straightforward tips both for preventing intoxication and for handling guests who have had one too many. You can use these guidelines to develop your own techniques that are specific to your work situation and company policy. You can often prevent problems just by sizing up your guests to make sure they are old enough to drink. You know you cannot serve underage guests. So if there's any doubt about someone's age, ask for identification and check it carefully. If you're unsure about one ID, ask for others. But remember that underage guests may have several forms of false identification. If you still have doubts, call your supervisor or security. Another situation to watch for is someone ordering multiple drinks. A person ordering multiple drinks may be buying for people who are underage. Keep an eye on how much each person is drinking. If you pick up early on danger signs, you can take some steps to slow down the drinking. To some extent, you can control how much people drink by always measuring the alcohol you serve. Never mix strong drinks. You do your guests no favors by overpouring because strong drinks may catch people off guard. Overpouring can also cause headaches for you, since you are the person most likely to have to deal with any guest who has had too much to drink. If you want to slow down someone's drinking, one way to do so is to offer refills only on request. Let people nurse their empty glasses. The waiting will allow time for the body to process at least some of the alcohol the guest has already consumed. Another way to slow down drinking is to suggest coffee or a soft drink to someone who has had one too many. On the house, if that's in line with company policy. Non-alcohol beverages will not make a person sober, but they will buy time. If you have someone who's really intoxicated, drinking coffee may not buy the guest all the time he needs, but it will buy you time to figure out how to deal with the situation. Food can buy time too. Remember that alcohol is absorbed more slowly if guests are eating while they are drinking. The liver eliminates approximately 3/4 of an ounce of pure alcohol per hour, so the more time between the drinks, the better. Despite all your precautions, people do sometimes drink too much. That's when you have to cut someone off. Once you've made the decision not to serve someone more alcohol, stick to it. It's not always easy, but never hesitate to say no if you have to. If you pick up on cues that a guest is intoxicated, be friendly and firm. Say, "Sorry, but I can't serve you any more alcohol. It's against the law." Let them know why they should slow down and that you're concerned about their safety. If the guest persists, repeat yourself. "I'm really sorry, sir or ma'am, but I just can't serve you another drink. Would you like some coffee instead?" Don't say, "I'm not giving you any more because you're drunk." It'll only antagonize the person. If you're polite but firm, most people will get the message. If they don't, call the manager. If the guest tries to persuade you to change your mind, remember that the law requires you to make a reasonable effort to see that guests don't drink too much. In fact, it's a good idea to document any alcohol-related incident, such as when someone becomes angry because you've refused service. Keep a notebook handy to jot down the date, the time, and what you did to keep the guest from drinking any more alcohol. If you don't make a reasonable effort to prevent an intoxicated guest from drinking, you could be held legally responsible if that person has an accident. It's called dram shop liability in some areas, but the principle applies in other areas under common or general negligence laws. If you are found liable, you could lose your job, cost the management its liquor license, and may even be sued. So it's just not worth it. If you have any doubts about serving alcohol, don't serve. You will find that your people skills will come in handy when you have to deal with a guest who has had too much to drink. Most people, no matter how intoxicated they are, will respond to a polite but friendly request, a little eye contact, and a smile. This personal tactic will often diffuse anger or deflect an argument. The tone you set at a bar or restaurant determines the kind of drinking that goes on. If you make it a practice to serve anyone, anytime, in any condition, you will have to deal with unruly guests, in addition to potential consequences related to breaking the law. But if, instead, you promote a sociable atmosphere and responsible drinking, you will stay on the right side of the law. You'll have an easier time while on the job, and your guests will enjoy a safer and more pleasant time in your establishment.